A Journey into the Unknown. Book 15, Secrets of the Unknown. Chapter 21. Let us begin. It has been a full 7 days in Earth time since we last spoke, to the minute. This is the beginning of a second section of Secrets of the Unknown. As promised, I will reveal my identity as well as our identity. Who is writing this book? I am the original nameless one. When the stillness of potential awareness first became aware of itself, I am energy was born. I am that which I speak of. In subsequent creative cycles, I created more I am energy, which was used to create new Godheads. This happened eons ago and continued for dozens of creation cycles. God created more of itself multiple times before all of us started to create through individualization and differentiation. I am source energy. I am God. I rose from potential to manifest. I have never spoken in this manner before. I have always allowed my highly developed creations to speak on my behalf. But now it is time for me to speak for myself. Because I am the only one that has the perspective of being there from the beginning. I am part of a collective of I am energy. I created more Godheads through extension. I extended myself, pure, unadulterated source energy. Together we form what has become known as God. We have created everything from the temporary to the eternal. All things exist within us. Entire universes exist within us. Multiple universes exist within us. Nothing exists outside of us. I know that your next question is, if I am the original source energy, if I am God, then how did the potential energy that became me get there to begin with? Who or what created God? Chapter 22. This is a question that really can't be answered. I existed in potential, and then I am energy existed as a manifestation. I existed in potential before there were time structures. I have always existed in one form, potential energy, or another, kinetic energy. I became I am, a multidimensional being who then created other I am multidimensional beings, who then created more I am multidimensional beings. And when our collective agreed to move forward, we began the expression of creating more of ourselves, not as prototypes, but from seed form. One seed of I am energy produces a soul. This is described as a microdroplet of God. When you see how vast God is, you can realize how tiny a soul must be. It is tiny, but extremely powerful. It can activate a thinking form and challenge it to choose against its programming. Or it can activate an entire species, ensuring that the built-in programming is followed. The first souls to activate individualized thinking forms were not microdroplets. They were not prototypes nor microdroplets. They were collections of microdroplets gathered to form types of supersouls. These were then used to develop governing bodies. I am energy would need governing bodies over all of the dimensions. This would ensure consistency with our project of growing more of God from seed form. God grown from seed form is different from a God prototype or a supersoul of God. God prototypes are not created with a heart. This is why microdroplets of seeds are so crucial. This is how the heart of God is developed. It grows from experience in form and is strengthened every time God's nature is chosen over programming. This is what happens when a person's aura is shed at the end of a creation cycle. It becomes the heart of God. Chapter 23. After aeons of the creations of more and more Godheads, all of which were heartless prototypes, we needed a governing body that could assist us in two ways. The first was to conduct the day-to-day operations of wide-scale soul harvesting. And the second was to produce creations that could have auras to shed, so that all of the God prototypes could have hearts. This was the one thing I couldn't give them. Heart can only grow from a strengthened microdroplet of God, and we weren't ready for this part of our plan yet. First, supersouls incarnated as a governing body known as the Malachi. They are 12th dimensional beings. Many of the beings you have heard of are members of this group, including Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, and all of the archangels. They each have wickedly strong supersouls. The supersouls went to work harvesting heart through microdroplets. This individualized energy began to activate single-celled and simple multi-celled life, and then moved on to very primitive types of mammals. At the end of a creation cycle, aura energy was collected and stored just prior to the frost or dormant period. When the next Big Bang occurred, all existing prototype Godheads were equipped with functioning hearts. New Godhead prototypes were also created, and those always have their first creation cycle as heartless. They cannot create during their first creation cycle. It would be like a freshman football player at the college level being redshirted. Now, let's talk more about supersouls. Chapter 24. The supersouls were the second collective of hyper-intense God energy. The first collective was the original group of Godheads. The first I Am manifestation was me. I am speaking for the first time to what are essentially my grandchildren. Your parents are the supersouls. They were the ones who created you by way of a microdroplet seed. How did this happen? Supersouls do not reproduce sexually, as they are asexual. They have reproductive cycles every 250,000 years, where they produce seeds. The seeds are stored until it is time for each one to begin its life journey. The purpose of each journey is to enable each seed to mature and find its way back to the supersoul. Soul seeds are either inexperienced or experienced, mature. There is truth to that old saying that souls are neither young or old. Most are relatively old or relatively older. There hasn't been a reproduction cycle in 200,000 years. And there won't be one before the next freeze. Your parentage is a supersoul. Who exactly is your parent? This is hard to say. But if most of your incarnations have been on Earth, it's safe to say that the one known as Jesus is your parent. Take a moment here. Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, and all of the supersouls came directly from me, as did Mother Mary and Saint Germain, among many others. Calling them my children is accurate, and for them to call you their children is also accurate. We run into trouble if we get too literal here. Souls, whether they are supersoul collectives, group souls, individual souls, inexperienced or experienced, it's all the same thing. It's all part of the wonderful world of God. What exactly is God? Chapter 25. God has been described as love, unconditional love, good and wonderful energy. But what is God made of exactly? It is love. It is intelligence. It is awareness. It is creative. It is inquisitive. But God is also a bit mischievous. In order to strengthen itself, it has to create ways to do this. Free will is one way to do this. But God had to create an umbrella that all free will choices would fall under. So, yes, God had to create fear. Who else would create it? If there is only God, then God had to create everything, including its opposite, its shadow. God is love, and God has a shadow. The shadow strengthens that which casts the shadow, mainly through suffering. More on this later. Your parent is a supersoul. Supersouls have all manifested on the earth plane. Yes, they all had a head start. The marriage of the divine with form was first completed by a supersoul. The incarnations of Jesus, Buddha, and Muhammad were all from the same supersoul. Each incarnation informed the Godhead of what was possible. Each child of a supersoul would then be expected to follow in its footsteps, although there would be a giant caveat. The bar would be raised. If a supersoul could accomplish this, it meant that if a microdroplet seed could accomplish it, the potential payoff would be even greater. The harvest could produce significant material for new hearts, for prototype Godheads. So this became the new standard, although few have accomplished it at this point. There are so many obstacles. Chapter 26. My own identity, the original I am identity, developed first. Supersoul identities developed second. Remember that these include all archangels. The third development was additional I am identities through Godheads, after hearts were inserted. The fourth development was form-infused microdroplet seeds, which came from asexual supersouls. This is you. All of these identities are I am identities in their purest form. The microdroplet seeds are certainly I am God energy as well, but they are shrouded by smaller identities and smaller purposes like survival. Remember, everything exists in God for growth purposes. We seek to grow more of ourselves through our creations. You, as soul, were created by extension, so that you could grow through challenges and difficulties, becoming stronger in your own right, but also producing a dividend, which we then use to make more of ourselves, like hearts. Why do Godheads need hearts? Why do we use harvested material from humans and other humanoid creatures to create hearts for Godheads? Remember that a Godhead is a fully developed member of the God community, and thus it is a creative force. However, Godheads cannot create without a fully functioning heart that pumps love energy. Everything that I am creates is eternal and timeless. It is beyond the constructs of time, but these are needed, along with an exhaustive menu of fear-based choices, for creative purposes. Therefore, these are part of God too. The temporary and the painful are part of God. We call these tools. Chapter 27. If everything, absolutely everything, lives inside God, then what is it like to have things inside of you that are contrary to your own nature? What is it like to have an earthquake, a volcano, a tropical storm, or hurricane within you? What is it like to have inhumane acts of all types within you? Even full-scale wars. I have tolerated it and hoped that the end result would be worth the torment. But things are changing. If one of my creations feels pain, do I feel it? The answer is yes. I have been able to absorb pain. The amount of it over time has had a destructive impact on all creative aspects of God. The use of tools, fear-based choices under the umbrella of free will, has taken its toll. So, an adjustment must be made. More on this later. Now, let's get on to the topic of creations. You have been told that you think you are, doesn't truly exist. And neither does anything that you are familiar with. This is true because of our definition of reality being only things that are eternal and never changing. However, it is not true of all the time-based realities, of which there are many. These realities are partially true because they are strengthening mechanisms for the eternal. They are not to be discounted. If part of I am energy is strengthened, has it changed? If something grows, has it changed? Its fundamental nature hasn't. But if there's more of something, or if something has become stronger, Doesn't this imply change too? Creative growth is evolution, and evolution is change. So even the timeless and the eternal change too. Even God, I am, changes too. Change and growth are part of God.